New York Mets give multiple updates, including some surprising names that could be shipped at the deadline, a baffling demotion, and what the team could do moving forward if they're quiet at the deadline. And after hearing this news, some fans can't even trust David Stearns as we are now approaching 24 hours to the trade deadline. So stay tuned to hear all about these crazy moves here only on Mets Digest. I'm your host today, Mike Duda. We're going to talk about all these moves, but first we got to talk about some subscribers, and that being that 69.2% of you that watch these videos aren't one. So please do me a favor, do us a favor here at Mets Digest, and hit that free subscribe button. That way we can bring content to you about the amazing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into it. And we're going to start it off with Andy Martinos, who says Jeff McNeil could be on the trade block. And Andy Martino, of course, of SNY, is a big insider. He knows what he's talking about. He went on Baseball Night in New York last night and detailed the Mets' potential pursuit of Rays Brandon Lowe. We have a video out on that already. Go ahead and check it out if you haven't already. And he says that the Mets are listening on several players, including Jeff McNeil. Why? Why? Look at the OPS. His OPS this year is better than his career OPS. Slightly better in OBP. His homers aren't that high at 9 and 32 RBIs, but keep in mind, he was hurt for a while. He only has 223 ABs. His average isn't that batting title self, but his slugging percentage is off the charts this year for Jeff McNeil's status. He is a great 6-hitter, possibly a 5-hitter. Again, I've talked about the rumors. My last video was about Steven Kwan possibly coming to the Mets. You go out and get Kwan, you put him in the leadoff spot, Jeff McNeil is your perfect 6-hitter. Then you pair him with Beatty in the 7, Mauricio in the 8, Alvarez in the 9, or some combination of that. You got Soto in the 3, Alonso in the 4, Nimmo in the 5, Lindor in the 2. That is the perfect lineup, but it includes Jeff McNeil. This does not happen. We don't go really that far in the playoffs if we don't have Jeff McNeil. That might be a bold claim, but I'm saying it. Squirrel is a big part of this team. He's a platoon player, super utility guy. He can basically play anywhere. He gives it his all every single game. He is great. I do not want to get rid of a homegrown talent in Jeff McNeil whatsoever. I think that's a mistake if they end up pursuing what Martino is disclosing. Now, moving on with some other infielders. I know McNeil has played the outfield, but moving on with some infielders, the Cincinnati Reds might be taking one or more of our young infielders. Buster Olney reports the Cincinnati Reds are among the teams who've been in contact with the Diamondbacks about Eugenio Suarez, but if Arizona finds a deal elsewhere with the high price set on the slugger, because Suarez is probably the biggest name at the deadline, the Reds may well pivot to another third baseman on the market. Gio Urshela of the A's, former Yankee, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa of the Pirates, also a former Yankee, or one of the Mets infielders, Brett Beatty, Luis Angel Acuna, Mark Vientos, and he doesn't even include Ronnie Mauricio on there. Buster Olney, of course, is on ESPN, as you can tell from his username, so I'm a little surprised by this, to be completely honest. I don't see anyone on the Reds that's good enough for a return package for us specifically. The only guy that I was thinking about was Jose Trevino, but that was before Francisco Alvarez came back, and he came back hot. I thought we needed a catcher pretty desperately to go as that number 1 with Luis Torrens at our 2, but I think we found it after the 1 month of Francisco Alvarez getting demoted, so I wouldn't trade with the Reds. If I'm going to get rid of any of the young sluggers, I do not want it to be the Cincinnati Reds whatsoever, as here are the stats on the guys. We're starting it off with Mark Vientos, and I started off with Vientos because out of the young guys, he is indeed the most likely to get moved. A lot of talks with him getting moved for Luis Robert. You all know how I feel about that. No whatsoever. But he is being rumored to be moved, as is Luis Angel Acuna, who's just not having a good year whatsoever. And unfortunately, I know we traded Max Scherzer for him, and we ended up paying the back end of Scherzer's contract just so that we can get Acuna, but he hasn't panned out of late. He had a great start in 2024 in September when Francisco Lindor got hurt. He was great in the postseason, had a hot start to 2025, won Rookie of the Month in April, and then it's just fallen off a cliff since. So honestly, as much as it pains me to say it, I am open to trading Luis Angel Acuna. He just doesn't have enough playing time in this Met roster, especially with a lot of young guys up on the horizon like Jet Williams, who is in the minor league system right now and is one of those infielders. You got Ryan Clifford down there. You got a lot of minor league prospects that could be coming up that play the infield as well. I just don't see a spot for Luis Angel Acuna moving forward, so I am open to trading him. I don't really want to trade Vientos, as you see the stats there. And 2 that I definitely do not want to trade, Brett Beatty, who's having one of the best seasons of his career, and Ronnie Mauricio, who is just simply raw talent. Mauricio has a ton of just natural power, great arm strength. He's got the unteachables. He has the tools that you need to be physically born with. He has them. And now it's up to the coaching and it's up to development to develop him a little bit more and make those tools and make him a great baseball player, which I think he definitely will be. No on Beatty and no on Mauricio. Only for the right package in my eyes to get rid of Mark Vientos. And unfortunately, I do have to say Luis Angel Acuna might actually be on the block. And honestly, unfortunately, I don't mind it. Now let's turn it over to Will Salmon and Tim Britton of The Athletic, who are going to talk a Mets starting pitcher in Paul Blackburn, who might also be on the block. They say, quote, the New York Mets are actively shopping starting pitcher Paul Blackburn ahead of Thursday's trade deadline, according to people briefed on the club's thinking. Blackburn is on the injured list with a right shoulder impingement. He's scheduled to make a rehab start for AAA Syracuse on Saturday. An impending free agent, Blackburn could be a fit for contenders looking for back-end starters or for sellers that will need to fill rotation spots after dealing other starters this week. Unfortunately, as much as this sounds like a good idea because Blackburn really hasn't been that good statistically in a Met uniform, it's going to be a minimum in terms of the return package. They go on to say Blackburn is not expected to bring back much of a return. The New York Post reported that teams were reaching out to the Mets about Blackburn in June before a spate of injuries temporarily wrecked New York's starting depth. That was when Blackburn had to come up for some spot starts. They put him in the bullpen at times. He needed to be a part of this roster, but with Manaea back, with Montas back, you really don't need him in the rotation anymore. And Blackburn actually spoke about this. He had a reaction to his overall pitching this year. He said, quote, it's been embarrassing, honestly. I've never gone through anything like this in my career. It's definitely been frustrating going back and watching outings because I don't feel like I'm throwing the wrong pitches at the wrong time. I feel like I have guys set up for what I want to do. For some reason, it's not going in my favor. When I went into the bullpen, I felt like I was kind of all over the place. Mentally, I tried to prepare like I was pitching today, and the days I wouldn't pitch, I sat there all day mentally in the zone. I never really had to deal with that. So it looks like Blackburn might be on the move. Personally, I don't mind it. I know a lot of Met fans don't really care. It's unfortunate, but Blackburn just hasn't been putting up the statistics to be on a World Series contending team. And if he's going to be in AAA, you might as well trade him because he's not a prospect. So if he's going to be in the minors anyway, you might as well just trade him and possibly get anything that you can, even if it's a very unknown name prospect. Hey, maybe the prospect pans out. Who knows? So, what if the Mets don't make a move? What are they going to do about their prospects as we speak about the prospects? Well, it looks like they're not going to bring up their best pitchers, but they might bring up some other ones. John Heyman reports that the Mets don't get a starter, they could consider moving up a top prospect, Jonah Tong, Nolan McLean, or Brandon Sproat. They are very reluctant to trade any of that trio. Now, I definitely do not think Jonah Tong is anywhere near ready to be in the MLB. I think you really need to take your time developing Tong because, like I've said time and time again, I think Tong is going to be the next Jacob deGrom for this New York Met team. I think he's great. He's got incredible raw talent. Nolan McLean also has a lot of talent. He is up there. All three of these guys are in our top 5 in overall prospects for the Mets, and Tong is a nationally ranked, a top 100 ranked player on the pipeline, and I believe McLean is as well. McLean has a lot of talent. I wouldn't rush him. Sproat, he's been in AAA for a while. He struggled to begin the year and has really gotten better since. The advanced metrics show he could be pretty solid. So if they bring anyone up down the stretch instead of trading for a pitcher, I would want it to be Sproat. Although David Stearns might end up keep going to Blade Tidwell because Tidwell has already been called up and you don't want to waste that extra year that you can have of control of these players as opposed to them going into free agency if you were to bring them up early. So that is something to keep in the back of your mind. And with that, let's move into some roster moves. Very surprising option here. The Mets optioned Huascar Brazoban to Syracuse and signed Chris Davinsky. Davinsky has pitched for the Mets before. We'll get into his stats in just a little bit, but let's talk about this shocking option of Huascar Brazoban. Turning it over to Mark W. Sanchez of the New York Post, who says, quote, the Mets sent down a reliever who was tied for the team lead in games pitched. Needing an arm that wasn't weary and eyeing a fresher, more stretched out version of Huascar Brazoban later in the season, the Mets optioned the righty, who had pitched in more games than every reliever on the team except Reed Garrett. Brosman has been a mainstay for the team all season, although his usage has evolved during the grind of a long season. Now, as much as this is a shocking move, it makes sense. As Sanchez says, when the Mets bullpen was at its best in April, Brosman was a multi-inning weapon who recorded as many as 7 outs in an appearance and had thrown 34 pitches in his season debut. When Brosman returns later this season, the Mets hope they will be bringing up the strong, lengthy reliever they saw in April that can go 30, 40 pitches and go multiple innings. So, the skip, Carlos Mendoza, is going to speak to this, and he's actually going to give a pitch limit. He says he's done a lot for us. We want to use this time to continue to build him up for a potential role here, because we told him, you're going to be back. And this is why he said he was hoping to stretch him out, quote, hopefully up to 40 pitches, end quote, in AAA. So Mendoza wants that length back out of Huasco Brosman. That's why he's in the minors, paired with his 10.66 ERA in his last 14 games. He just simply hasn't been good for us, and I think this is a good thing. Send him down to the minors, let him get back, let him get his stuff back, let him build up his A, confidence, and B, stamina. It's basically the same thing they did with Francisco Alvarez, and I know it's early, but it started to pan out with Alvarez, so you hope it pans out with Brosman as well. Here's his replacement in Chris Davinsky. We know he's had a really solid season. Honestly, just one bad outing in his 11 games, 12 and 2/3 innings pitched, less than a 1 whip, 2.84 ERA. Formerly with the Astros, he had a really good 2019, and after that kind of fell off the face of the earth, but he is definitely back here in 2025 and has had a really nice season. So if the Mets need a bullpen arm, they need to go someone in that pen. Chris Davinsky is definitely not a bad option. So that's the roster moves on the pitching front. As for the offensive front, we have injury updates on Jesse Winker, which is the last thing we're going to talk about today, who, quote, hasn't returned to activities according to John Flanagan of SNY. He goes on to say Winker has been stretching and doing exercises, but he still hasn't resumed baseball activities. The lefty hitting DH/outfielder, of course, has been sidelined due to ongoing back discomfort. Mendoza said that he isn't close to taking that next step in his road to recovery, but the team still expects he'll be able to return before the end of the season. Now, this is really surprising because Jesse Winker, when he originally went on the IL, was supposed to come back a little bit after the All-Star break, of course, having been out for 2 months before that with another injury. He came back, played a couple of games, got hurt again. I think it was actually his first at-bat in Baltimore. He got hurt again, and it was supposed to be a small IL stint, a short IL stint, where he comes back slightly after the All-Star break, and it looks like it is way worse than we anticipated. Honestly, typical Mets, they almost never have a proper injury update, so let's hear some more remarks from the skip. He goes on to say, that's what the trainers are telling us. We just have to wait. As Flanagan's going to wrap up here saying Winker was making his return from an IL stint when he felt the tightness during an AB against the Orioles, his first one back. He's been sidelined for about 3 weeks now and doesn't appear close to a return. Prior to his absence, he had 8 extra base hits and a 709 OPS through just 26 appearances. So Winker hasn't been healthy overall, and it looks like that is going to continue. I really do hope that the Mets get him back before the end of the season, especially if they go out and acquire a bat like Steven Kwan. I think Winker would still have some good ABs. It's good to get him against the left-handers, or rather the right-handers. So I don't mind it overall if Winker comes back. Even if you get a bat, I think you still have room for him. So let's just hope for the best with Jesse Winker in terms of his injury. So go down there in the comment section. Let me know what you think about McNeil and about Brosman. Personally, keep Jeff McNeil at all costs. Unless the deal is really lopsided in favor of the New York Mets, I do not want to trade Jeff McNeil at any cost. As for Brosman, I understand his demotion. I understand it. They're going to try and get some length out of him, get his confidence back in AAA, and bring him back when the time is appropriate. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you disagree. Let me know if you agree. Give me your thoughts. Give me your reasonings down below. Plenty of trade coverage coming from us here at Mets Digest, myself and Adam. We got you covered on all the rumors, anything if Stearns pulls the trigger. But unfortunately, that's all the time for you in this update video. Thank you so much as always for watching, and let's go Mets.